basically vision needs three pieces. It needs a sense of what the mission is, what's the goal, what's the path, and who's the network, because you can't do anything really without a gang to help you. And for the forest industry, but I think for any manufacturer, the goal has to be able to produce a product within Earth's carrying capacity. Otherwise, it's not sustainable. If what you're producing is a net loss to Earth's carrying capacity, it is not sustainable. So producing products that don't trash our nest, don't trash Mother Earth, has to be our goal. And unless you are an input to sustainable consumption, you are on the road to not sustainable production. And so, I mean, this sounds relatively simple, but it's hugely radical. Can we produce goods that are within nature's, within the planet's carrying capacity over the long term? And so for the Canada's forest industry, that's simply the goal. And it's not, can we get a little bit better at this or a little bit better at that? It's, can we produce product that's within carrying capacity? Earth's population, what are we going to add? I think we're going to add the population of China over the next 20 years. That's a fair number of people. Global GDP is going to be doubling. Per capita GDP in emerging nations are going to be tripling. You're talking a lot of pressure, a lot of consumers. But if they all keep consuming under the current regime, it simply will not be sustainable. Look at any trend line out there on pressures on the Earth, whether it's greenhouse gases, water supply, water cleanliness, available land use, arable land, quality of air, toxics. Look at any of those trend lines and they're going someplace you don't want to be. And the only way not to go someplace you don't want to be is to actually rethink production so it's within Earth's carrying capacity. So that's the goal it has to be. Otherwise, it's not sustainable. It's just sort of a little bit better, or it's better than the other guy, or it's better than what I did last year. Better than what I did last year doesn't mean sustainable. So the question is, if you're in the forest industry, producing, I don't think this is, no, producing what they should build podiums out of, wood and paper, what do you do to actually meet this goal? Is there a reasonable path? And you have to think of all the pieces that we have. So what's paper? It's basically a tree plus energy. So our first thing, of course, is to think about, can we reach the sustainable goal on energy? And we've set a target of being 100% renewable on a net basis, plain and simple. We're 60% of the way there now. We produce enough green renewable energy from our waste stream in our mills now to replace 3 nuclear reactors. We could triple that, so we can be net exporters of green energy. So from an energy perspective, the path is pretty clear. We're well on the way. Has to be 100% renewable. We've done Kyoto 7 times over. So the rest of manufacturing, no doubt, will catch up soon. But the Kyoto game is kind of like an interesting reference point. The real reference point is it sustainable? And that means it should be 100% renewable. And that's where we're going to get to. And we're moving there. Greenhouse gases. Our commitment is to produce products that are carbon neutral, cradle to grave, with no purchased offsets. So we're not going to pay somebody to plant a tree in Ecuador or hide the greenhouse gases in a hole in the ground or whatever other way you could offset your production. Our idea is that from cradle to grave, from tree to the end of use, so tree to end of life cycle, our stuff should be carbon neutral. That's within Earth's carrying capacity. Anything else is not within Earth's carrying capacity. And so we set a target of 2015. We're working with a lot of environmental groups on the path to it. I'm not certain we'll make it by 2015. but I'm not certain we won't either. We're certainly on path now. A lot of it depends upon end of life, like whether or not we can get recycling up to the, we're willing to take 100% of recycled product that people want to give us to use for recycling, but we can't get enough of it. And unless cities manage their landfills, we're going to have a harder time meeting our greenhouse gas carbon neutral goal. But as far as, again, the path is there. We're well on our way, and the path is to being completely within sustainability. Ecosystems, forests. Replenishing the forest as quickly as you harvest them is far too simple a goal for us. So anywhere that we're operating, we have got deforestation down to zero, with the exception of some roads that seem to take a long time to come back. But mostly, I'd say, within 0.1%, we are down to no deforestation. But that's insufficient. What the carrying capacity, what the sustainability standard should be, is sustaining ecosystem services, sustaining ecosystem integrity. So biodiversity, water, air, all of that, which requires changes in our harvesting practices so that they are based on natural disturbance patterns. I mean, forests don't live forever. There actually are natural disturbance patterns. And so what we've been doing is building in harvesting methods that mimic natural disturbance patterns, so the regeneration would be what would normally happen in a forest. Among my members now, everybody is certified to a high third-party standard, whereas in the world it's only 10%, but we're not considering that good enough. We're actually looking at raising all those standards. And of course, science keeps giving us new ideas. So again, the concept is not just getting better, not just being better than what they do in Asia or Brazil. The concept is, can we work in the forest in a way that sustains the ecosystem integrity of the forest? And again, we're very far down the path. And like everything else that I've talked about, we're not there yet. But it's defined, it's thought about, and we're committed. I could go on the same thing with water. What we used to put into the water in terms of toxins, we're at zero detectable already. But there are pieces that we don't understand. We think that we may be the source of endocrine disruptors, which have a very negative effect on marine life. And actually, instead of the green groups coming to us, or even government scientists come to us, because no one's quite sure where they've come from or what our role is, we've gone out and said, it's reasonable to expect that we are a contributor to this, and we've gathered together the green groups and the government scientists, and we've got a project trying to figure it out before someone figures it out for us. So I could go on and on, but I think the concept is pretty clear. In terms of mission, it's within Earth's carrying capacity. In terms of path, for each of the pieces where we touch the environment, we've got a very practical path, which we've gone a long way down, and we have a long way to go. The network. One of the key things that you learn as you try and do this work is you can't do anything yourself. The world is a complicated place where there isn't sort of centralized power. So we've worked really hard at trying to figure out who is the network, what is the network within which we have to situate this drive to sustainability. And of course, the first answer is green groups, conservation groups. So on our carbon neutral by 2015 project, we've got several prominent environmental groups like Pembina and WWF. But then for forest system integrity, which, and I'll tell you how that relates in a minute to greenhouse gases, we've decided that those guys are a little too easy. So we now partnered with Greenpeace, Forest Ethics, Canopy, Canadian Parks and Wilderness in what's been announced about a year ago, the Boreal Agreement. So we've got pretty well the toughest environmental groups and 21 large forest companies together developing a plan to work within the carrying capacity of the boreal forest. And so instead of green groups yelling at us and we yelling at them, we've actually become partners in trying to figure this all out together, which leads to both better and faster solutions. Customers are also can be our partners in this. piece of paper used to be about as stupid a commodity as you can get. Just, can you write on it and whatnot? But that's no longer true. Jay was talking about, service to customers, but really what we're worried about is meaning to customers. Any consumer product, whether you have an Apple or a boring computer, or whether you have a Rolls or a Honda or a Subaru, what kind of house you live in, what kind of clothes you wear. I'm on my way to holiday. All of those are identity statements. When you buy a certain type of car, you're saying who you are. When you buy a certain type of house, you're saying who you are. Almost all our products, because most of what we buy we don't need at all. They're more about the meaning of our lives and the meaning of ourselves. Otherwise, we wouldn't have most of our environmental problems. So when we sell a piece of paper, it used to be about the paper, but now it's just as much about the consumer, who they are. And if we're selling them a piece of paper or a hunk of wood that trashes the planet, what we are saying to them is that they are bad people. And so our consumers more and more want to be told that their paper or wood purchase is proof that they are good people, responsible people. And so there actually is a value proposition in environmental excellence, which is about the identity of the consumer. I've been playing in environmental stuff for, 25 years. And for years and years and years, if you asked people what they cared about on the environment, it was always local. Hope it doesn't make me sick. And it was always, you ask them who's responsible for pollution, they always say, it's industry. In the last 5 years, all of that has switched. The primary concerns are global. Want to hang out on this planet a while longer, thank you. And you ask people who's responsible, they always say, it's equally me as a consumer and industry. That's a huge shift. So you can't really be sustainable in business unless you can deal with that consumer expectation. And you can see the impact of this. What most businesses are doing is taking out glossy ads. So pick up any good magazine, and there are all these ads showing how it's usually someone in a lab coat, Eurasian woman looking very earnest with a clipboard, a very, very sincere young man peering at the camera, maybe wearing a plaid shirt or something. And they always say, because I care so much, and I'm such a technical person, we're fixing all this. The consumer reads all this, and they think, well, if all these companies, if all of industry is doing so well, why is the planet so screwed over? And they just instinctively don't believe it. So to actually make an impact on the consumer, you actually need the partnership with the green groups. So both for finding better solutions, but also for giving the value proposition so our consumers actually get the value proposition we're trying to give them in terms of greenness. The green groups are really useful. Governments are also hugely important partners, both for creating level playing field, but also creating, investing in greenness and creating a regulatory environment. But I'm probably talking too much. So I gotta just summarize. If it ain't radical, it's probably not sustainable. Reduce, reuse, recycle, not enough. You got to rethink, re-engineer, reconceptualize, and re-energize. Thank you.